All right. I'm Peter Alessandria, and for the next 90 minutes, I invite you to be bigger than you think you are. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Let's take a look at our agenda for this evening. All right, as usual, we're going to start with some announcements. Then we'll have our recommended reading, and I have a real doozy for you guys tonight. We have our affirmation of the day, then we'll do our introductions and victories. We'll do an audiobook excerpt from my book tonight, chapter 4. We'll have our topic discussion, take a break at about 8:45, come back for our Q&A and assignment, and then we'll wrap it up by 9:30. Our first announcement, a reminder that tonight's workshop is being recorded and will be available on the BeBiggerToday.com website and YouTube channel within the next 48 hours. Please feel free to stop your video and or mute your microphone if you do not wish to be seen or heard on the recording. Second announcement actually, we have author signed paperbacks. This is the first edition. Excuse me, I have a few copies left. I will personally sign this. You get a 20% discount by using the code BOOK20 at checkout. It's not too late to get them for, well, I'm not sure if I can get it to you by Christmas, but certainly by New Year's, not too late. BeBiggerToday.com/book, book20 for 20% discount. Also, my book, New York Cityscapes, the definitive NYC photo book, collaboration between myself and 6 other New York City area photographers. I have copies of this book available as well on my website, and the book is actually on sale for $16.95 at BeBiggerToday.com/bookstore. I'll also sign that. Audiobook, available for pre-order. And yes, I will have it done by the end of the year, by the end of the month, which is the end of the year. Available for pre-order at $9.99. That's almost half off the regular price. It's going to be close to 10 hours, unabridged. And both the audiobook and the paperback come with a money-back guarantee. If you don't love it, just let me know and I'll send you your money back. No questions asked, but I know you're going to love it. BeBiggerToday.com/bookstore to get your copy of the audiobook. We also have merch, hats and t-shirts. Save 20% with the discount code MERCH20 at checkout. BeBiggerToday.com/merch. And my original art and photography. I have professionally framed, signed, limited edition prints available for you guys. And here's our commercial for tonight. Peter's photos and abstract designs are uniquely beautiful, one-of-a-kind works of art. These gallery-wrapped canvas prints are set in a contemporary shadow box floating frame and will enhance the beauty of any home or office. Available in 4 different sizes, each piece is professionally framed and comes complete and ready to hang. Frames are available in your choice of black, white, or brown, and each is signed by the artist. Peter's original art and photography will make a great gift for a client, for yourself, or someone you love. Order yours today. BeBiggerToday.com/art-photography. Also, I have refrigerator magnets. Yes, these are the forgiveness refrigerator magnets. There is a story behind these refrigerator magnets. You can find it in chapter 7 of the book if you have that. You can get these as well on my website, BeBiggerToday.com/merch. And if you want to read the story, you don't have the book, you can go to my website, BeBiggerToday.com. Right on the homepage, you'll see this image. Just click on that, it will take you to the article that I wrote for Morning Laziness, where I talked about how forgiving attacks on me and my photos on Facebook, by not taking that personally and by turning that whole situation around, I got a 5-figure souvenir license deal for my photos. So it's a really cool story, actually. We'll talk about it when we get to chapter 7. But if you can't wait, go to my website, check out this article. Finally, I'm available for one-on-one coaching and or consulting for your business. If you're a creative type, a writer, artist, photographer, you want to work with me one-on-one, or if you have a business, I'm happy to talk to your management team, your sales team, on how they can be bigger than they think they are. reach out to me on the website at bebiggertoday.com. We'll set that up. All right, so we're going to start off tonight with our recommended reading. The recommended reading for tonight is the Urantia book. Now, you may or may not be familiar with this book. It actually came on the scene probably in the early 70s, although it might be the 60s. I don't remember. I don't know exactly. The Urantia book it's hard to describe, actually. I found this book myself in the early 90s. It's over 2,000 pages. I read it cover to cover like 4 or 5 times. And as you see the subtitle, Revealing the Mysteries of God, the Universe, World History, Jesus, and Ourselves. Now, there's actually no author credited for this book. There's a whole story behind how the book came about, as well as who actually dictated the book. But I will say it is one of the most profound books I've ever read if you're interested in spirituality, if you are interested in a higher power, and that kind of thing, as well as if you have any interest at all in the life of Jesus. So this book goes into great detail. Now there's actually 3 or 4 different sections. You may have heard that there's a snowplow. We're having a huge snowstorm here, and the snowplow is going back and forth on the street, so you may hear some noise in the background. So this book is divided into 3 or 4 sections, and I think it's maybe the second or third section, or maybe the 4th section, is a story. It's an accounting of the life of Jesus while he was here on earth. And it's basically a blow-by-blow from his early childhood, his family life, and all the way through his crucifixion. And it's channeled material, meaning it came from a higher source, and there's no dogma, there's no indoctrination, there's no religiosity in it. It's just it's almost like a newspaper reporter's account of the life and times of Jesus. It's interesting, a lot of it corresponds what we see in the Bible and elsewhere, but a lot of it also contradicts that. So you have to be a little bit open-minded to consider this, but for me it was very profound and very moving to read the story of Jesus' life in a way that's not filled with dogma or indoctrination or religiosity. Now, the book, you can get it, it's actually available for free as a download, PDF download on the urantia.org website. They also have audio, it's also been recorded by professional voiceover actors, and so you can download those for free. You can listen to them on your phone or your computer. It is a long one. As I said, it's over 2,000 pages, but you can go in there and pick which chapter. It's actually organized by articles. And you can go in there and pick whichever ones you want to listen to or read. So again, if you're open-minded or curious, or if hearing me talk about this book has sparked anything within you where you want to know more, go to urantia.org and check it out. I highly recommend it. All right, our affirmation for the day. I got this. I can do this. I can handle this. All right, I got this. These 3 little words can change your life. Because as I've shared many times, for me, especially when we started this chapter, we've been talking about fear in chapter 4. I mentioned that my definition of fear is an emotional response to a perception of myself as powerless and or unlovable in a given situation. Now, we've talked a lot about affirmations over the last few months. You guys know I'm a big believer in the power of affirmations. These 3 little words repeated to ourselves at the right time in the right way, for me, in my experience at least, this can really shift my attitude, it can shift my mood, it leaves me feeling more empowered. So if fear is an emotional response to a perception of myself as powerless, when I say something either to myself or even out loud, something like, I got this, I can handle this is going to be okay, it completely shifts my mood. It shifts my attitude, and it makes me more effective. It leads to me being more effective in that situation that's challenging me. So again, we want to be aware in those situations that challenge us. We want to be aware of what we're thinking. We want to be aware of what we're saying to ourselves. We want to be aware if we're repeating those old habitual patterns that actually got us stuck in the first place. So a simple three-word phrase like "I got this," say it with a little bit of emotion. You can say it out loud or say it to yourself. In those moments when you want to say, "Oh my God, I'm screwed," or I can't handle this, or this is never going to work out, just that little shift, try it. Just try it. Remember, we're reprogramming, and we have been negatively programming ourselves for years, some of us for decades, by saying things like, "Oh my God, I can't handle this," or "This is going to be terrible," or "This is too much for me," or "I don't know what to do," or "This is going to be painful." We say those things to ourselves. I'll speak for myself. I say those things to myself all the time, so I'm affirming. I'm using affirmations, but they're just negative affirmations. So I'm inviting you and me and everybody else to substitute those negative affirmations for more positive ones. And "I got this" is one of my favorites. All right, so this is an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves. If you're new and you'd like to say hello, you'll have an opportunity to do that. Or if you've been here and you want to share a victory from the last week, this is a time for you to do that as well. All you need to do is unmute. We have a small group tonight, so just unmute and we'll let you take it away. Anybody want to share a victory or say hello?
Hi there, it's Constance. Great to see you, Peter, and everybody on the webinar. I got this. I guess a victory is showing up. I finally get to come on and showing up. Yeah, let's do that one.
Awesome. All right. So Constance is a special friend of mine, as well as some of the other people on the workshop tonight. And I'm so excited that you're here with us tonight, Constance. And I know you're going to make a great contribution, and hopefully you enjoy your time here and maybe come back and see us again. Anybody else want to say hi or share a victory? Barbara, you ready to go?
Ooh, you keep on, no, I just came by, but I will say hi. Do I have a victory? No, I'm hanging in there. That's what I said. Nobody wants to hear, it's day by day, but my victories were in the past. I'm hanging in there.
All right, good.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, compared to the alternative.
Well, yes, if the victory is that I'm positive over the negative, that's the victory. It's definitely that. I can go into the job and function on my day, and I'm not negative. I'm definitely a positive person.
Great.
Yes.
That's great. There's a lot to be said for that. So
yes, there is. So hi.
Hi. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Dee Dee, you wanted to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Hey, Peter, thanks so much. I continue to watch how if somebody else gets in their fear cycle, how I become triggered by that. And because I'm able to see it quickly, I'm able to help myself not escalate. And that's a real win for me, especially when I'm working with my mom, helping my mom. So thank you for this chapter going from fear to love. I'm so grateful.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Dee Dee. I love to hear it. We have a couple more weeks on this chapter, so we still have, tonight we're going to revisit fear. We've been talking about love the last 2 weeks. We're going to backtrack a little bit and talk about fear. And then next week, I think might be the last one we'll really dive in on love. Anybody else want to say hi or share a victory? All right. So why don't we begin then? As we said a minute ago, we're still working on chapter 4. From FEAR to LOVE. And one of the things I've shared in the past was that in order to make the transition from fear to love, many of us, myself included, have to overcome our fear of love. I can only speak for myself, although I think I see this in other people. Love is a scary thing for a lot of us. I know it's been for me, and this fear of intimacy, this fear of commitment, this fear of letting somebody really get to know me. somebody get to see who I really am. There's a lot of fear around that. If I don't think that I'm lovable, if I don't think that I'm worthy, if I don't think I'm good enough to be loved by another person, I live in fear of being found out, being exposed, being rejected, and ultimately feeling miserable about all that. So to go from fear to love, I at least have to overcome my fear of love. And this extends way beyond intimate romantic relationships. This can be with a boss, it could be with a coworker, it could be with a friend, it could be with a family member. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to listen to the audiobook excerpt from chapter 4. Again, I'm not going to give you the page number because this is from the second edition and it reads a little differently than the first edition that you guys have. And then we'll come back after that. Fear as the absence of love. According to A Course in Miracles, we're only capable of two emotions, love or fear. Love can be said to encompass all our positive feelings, while fear encircles all the negative ones. In terms of the relationship between these two emotions, the Course says, fear is the absence of love. It's really interesting to think of fear in this way. Basically, it's saying the way to free ourselves of fear or any other negative emotion is to bring love to it. We don't have to fight against or resist fear. Fighting or resisting anything always makes it stronger, by the way. Rather, we just need to bestow love upon ourselves or another and the fear will disappear. This is because a positive emotion can displace a negative one. The form the love takes may differ. It could be understanding, forgiveness, compassion, tolerance, etc. But the result is the same. Let me give an example of how this has worked in my own life. As I mentioned in the introduction, the first 3 years or so after I transitioned from being a lawyer to a photographer, not much was happening. I had my website set up and got a few clients that way, but I wasn't doing anything really proactive to bring in business. I was actually sitting around watching TV and playing video games most of the day. Not because I was lazy, but because, as we'll see in a minute, I was terrified of putting myself out there. I had some money saved from before I changed careers and was using that to supplement my income. As 3 years came and went, that savings had seriously diminished. I knew I was going to have to do something to generate business if I wanted to continue doing photography for a living. So I decided I needed to do some marketing. An easy way to think of marketing is making your business visible. There are different methods such as advertising, social media campaigns, networking, direct mail, email blasts, cold calls, etc. The problem was most marketing efforts cost money, and by that point, I barely had enough to cover my living expenses. This meant I had to focus on low-cost, no-cost methods. I tried some networking events and asked friends and colleagues for referrals, but both of these were very hit or miss. Social media was just coming into its own, but because of my own judgmental nature, I had been resisting using Facebook. I also got started very late on Instagram. So that left email marketing and cold calling. While I eventually did both, I'm going to focus on my experiences with cold calling for now. It was good because it wouldn't cost me anything financially, and since I wasn't working very much, I had the time. I'd considered doing some cold calling for a couple of years prior, but my stomach turned in knots every time I thought about it. I found the whole idea too painful and frightening for it to be a viable option. That was until now. Footnote 27. The focus of my cold calling was my product photography, www.greatproductshots.com, and my headshot business, www.superstarheadshots.com. Back to the text. We said earlier that fear is a mostly paralyzing emotion, but that in certain situations it can also be a motivator. While initially I resisted making calls, when I realized that if I didn't do something soon I might be homeless, fear became a motivator. As preparation, I researched how to find prospects and what to say during a call. I wrote myself a little script so I wouldn't be fumbling for words. I fumbled anyway. And soon I started making some calls. Not many, only a few a day at first, but I was doing it. And it was mostly awful. Not because of the other people. They were usually quite nice and polite, nicer than I was to the telemarketers who called me. But because of me. I judged myself very harshly. I thought I sounded stupid on the phone. I questioned whether I was actually a good photographer or could provide anything of value to a potential customer. When I got off the phone, I would routinely beat myself up for everything I just said. Even if the call went well, I would find a way to berate myself. Looking back, I could see I was really merciless in my self-condemnation at times. Not surprisingly, my fear manifested physically. Before almost every call, my hands would shake and I would start to sweat. During calls, my body would tremble and my voice often cracked. To make matters worse, I usually beat myself up for being so afraid. After a few weeks of making calls, someone actually said yes. I was totally surprised, shocked actually. So shocked that I asked them if they were sure about hiring me and told them they could change their mind later if they wanted to. Boy, did I beat myself up for that one. After booking that first client, I spent some time reflecting on the angst of the prior weeks. What I realized was profound. The fear I was feeling wasn't because of what someone else was doing to me. Like I said, most of the people were quite pleasant. Not only did no one hang up on me in almost 2 years of cold calling, some had even gone out of their way to help me. They gave me the names of other people who might be interested, even though they themselves weren't. Rather, what was causing all my fear and emotional turmoil was what I was doing to myself. Before and after nearly every call, I was rejecting myself. No matter how the conversation went, I would find a way to make myself wrong. You should have said this instead of that. Now they're going to find out you don't know what you're doing, etc. The gift in this experience was realizing I wasn't afraid because of what they thought of me. I was afraid because of what I thought of me. As I mentioned in earlier chapters, it was the self-recrimination that was creating all my fear. It was awesome to see, and not in a good way, how much turmoil my own lack of self-love could create in my life. After this realization, I tried to be nicer to myself, both in general and when making cold calls. I also remembered that A Course in Miracles says, fear is the absence of love. So I started trying to love myself more. I stopped judging myself so much and tried to replace self-flagellation with self-congratulation. I attempted to learn from my mistakes instead of crucifying myself for them. I even praised myself out loud from time to time for a job well done. Not surprisingly, the nicer I was to myself, the more smoothly the calls went. It became very clear that the shift in my attitude toward me is what lessened the fear. Nothing changed with the people I was calling. They were exactly the same as before. Rather, what had changed was I was being kind instead of cruel towards myself. All right, so those were my adventures in cold calling. When I was writing the book, when I was writing this chapter, when I was writing the book, I knew I had to talk about my adventures in cold calling, and I didn't know where it was going to fit in with the book. And then when I got to this chapter, I knew it was the right place because it talks about, and we're going to talk about this tonight, the relationship between fear and self-recrimination. It was, as you heard in the reading, it was my rejection of myself. It was the self-recrimination that was at the heart of all the fear that I was feeling. Turned out that in almost 2 years of cold calling, nobody ever hung up on me once. As I said again in the reading, that most people were nicer to me than I was to the telemarketers who were calling me. And some of them, I think they felt bad for me. Some of them went out of their way to help me by giving me the names of their friends or other companies that I could call to pitch my services. So it was very telling. It was a very powerful experience for me. And I got to see that was the only thing, guys, the only thing that was holding me back was this self-recrimination, this self-criticism, this self-rejection, this self-hatred. And it was a self-hatred that was manifesting the fear. And, we talked about how thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to words and actions lead to the outcomes that we experience in life. So if I start with negative thoughts, I'm going to have negative feelings. If I have negative feelings, I'm going to speak negative words and take negative actions. And if I speak negative words and take negative actions, I'm going to have negative outcomes in my life. So what we want to do is stop the train. And sometimes it's like we don't know until after the fact. It's like often we're not aware, I'm not aware of the thought processes. And it's not always a thought. It's not always a thought like, people are not going to like me. It's also a perception. There's a perceptual process, but there's some kind of mental process that precedes the feelings. And the feelings precede the words and the actions. So sometimes I have to work backwards and say, God, so in that telephone call with the client, I sounded very negative in the way I was speaking to them. What was behind those negative words? And I thought, well, I was feeling a little insecure. because I was afraid they were not happy with the work. And so that's the thought. The thought that started this whole train was like, they're not going to like me. They're not going to like my work. Something bad is going to happen here. And so the negative thought leads to the negative feeling leads to the negative words and actions, and then the negative words and actions lead to the negative outcomes. All right, so let's take a look at our first slide for tonight. For me, it's helpful. So again, my definition of fear. Fear is an emotional response to a perception of myself as powerless and or unlovable in a given situation. Now, we've talked about that definition before, but I want to back up a little bit and start by saying an emotional response. So the way the fear manifests is as an emotion. And emotion, as some of you know, emotion is energy in motion. Emotion, energy in motion. And the thing I want to say about fear is fear equals resistance. At least it does for me. Now, there may be the flight or fight response where we have a burst of energy or whatever, but what I'm talking about is kind of like chronic fear. It's kind of like situational or long-term resistance. And for me at least, that's almost always about fear. If I don't do something, or if I'm procrastinating, or if I'm putting something off, it's not because I'm lazy. It's not because, I'm a jerk or whatever. It's because I'm afraid. Either I'm not interested, it's not something I'm interested in doing or want to do or have to do for whatever, or I'm afraid to do it. So for me, fear is a paralyzing emotion. It slows me down. It keeps me from picking up the phone. When I for instance, when I started submitting my work for publication, my photos have been published in newspapers and magazines around the world, online, things like that. But for the longest time, I couldn't pick up that phone to call the newspaper. I couldn't even send the email to submit my work for shows, for exhibitions, for publication, because I was paralyzed with fear. Because what if they rejected me? What if they don't like me? What if they don't like my work? I'm going to feel ashamed. I'm going to feel bad about myself, and I don't want to feel bad about myself. So the safer route is to not do anything. The safer route is to not take that healthy risk of putting myself out there for fear of rejection. Now again, what I found this was true with the shows and exhibitions and publication, as true as it was with the cold calling. It wasn't somebody else's rejection that was the problem. The problem was me rejecting myself. So that thought creates the fear, and the fear is a paralyzing emotion. It's resistance. I say, a lot of people talk about procrastination. I say procrastination is just a 5-syllable word for fear. So I notice when I'm procrastinating, when I'm putting things off, now I say, oh, okay, I know procrastination is about fear, and I know fear is resistance, and I can see, I recently had to file some paperwork, financial paperwork for something, and I just kept putting it off. And I kept putting it off, and I realized, oh, procrastination, fear, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'm going to mess this up. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, and there's going to be consequences that I can't handle. Remember, I got this. As opposed to, I can't handle this. This is going to be a nightmare. This is going to be so hard. I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to be punished. I'm going to be penalized. Those of us who wait till the last minute to do our taxes, that's for me, that's the thought process. It's all about, I'm going to mess it up and I'm going to be penalized and there's nothing I can do about it. It's going to feel terrible. So fear is a paralyzing emotion. Procrastination is a 5-syllable word for fear. And remember, see, here's the good news. I've said this a million times already in the last 5 months that we've been doing these workshops. The problem is never the situation. The problem is always and only how I see myself in that situation. Remember, it's my self-image. It's who I think I am. It's how I see myself that creates the emotion, that leads to the... Basically, what happens is an event happens. Let's say it's filing my taxes, all right? So I have a perception of that situation. There's a deadline, I got to file my taxes, and I look on my computer and I have all these invoices and receipts and bank statements and all that stuff. And what happens is I take that information, and that information passes through my 5 senses, or at least through my eyes, into my brain, into my mind. And then what happens is my mind gives a meaning to that event or situation, and then I react to that meaning, not to the situation itself. See, some people don't have any problems filing their taxes. To them, it's a breeze. But for somebody like me, the meaning I give that situation is, uh-oh, this is going to be difficult, this is going to be unpleasant, I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to be penalized, I don't have the money to pay. As it is, I give all this negative meaning to that situation, and that's what causes the fear. It's not the situation itself. We all have our subjective interpretation, and the way it works, I described this in chapter 2, information from the outside world comes in through our senses, and it passes through this filter. We all have this filtering process inside our mind, and that filter is based on who we think we are, how we see ourselves, and it's almost always based on our experience of ourselves in past situations. And so the information passes through that filter, our mind gives the situation a meaning, and then we react to the meaning. We're not reacting to the situation. We react to the meaning we give the situation based on who we think we are. Now, it turns out, guys, this is really good news, because we often can't control the situations in our lives. I don't really have a choice about filing my taxes by April 15th or whenever it is. So I can't change that situation. But I can change how I see myself in that situation. And when I change how I see myself in that situation, I change the meaning that I give that situation, and I have a whole different experience of it. So the truth is, these days, I'm actually really good with my taxes, because I've changed who I think I am, how I see myself in that situation. Plus, I'm all automated now, so I got everything on my computer. It used to take me days to do my taxes. Now it takes me a few hours. And that's not just my personal taxes, that's for my photography business and now for my book business. So I have everything ready to go, and it takes me a few hours. And I'm relatively calm and relaxed while I do it. It's the same thing, preparing my own taxes. The difference is how I see myself and the meaning I give the situation as a result. So I'm here to say, and we talked about this, chapter 1 and 2, in the book, and actually chapter 3, are all about changing how we see ourselves. The affirmations, the vision statement, the guided visualizations, the meditations, the mind movie, the vision board, all of that stuff can work in our favor to reprogram who we think we are in the situations we encounter in life. And again, it can be as simple as starting with, I got this. The next time a difficult situation comes up, instead of the default, which is, oh my God, I'm screwed, what am I going to do? Now we have an affirmation, we have a new way to reprogram that thinking, to say, I got this. Or, it may be challenging, it may be difficult, but you know what? I can figure this out. And I'm going to be nice to myself in the process. Do you think that you'll have a different experience if you face a situation and say, I'm screwed, I can't handle this is overwhelming, versus saying to yourself, I got this, or I can figure this out, or I can ask for help and get help with this? Do you think you'll have a different experience? I do. All right, so fear equals resistance. It's a paralyzing emotion. My next slide for the evening. Remember, guys, I spent all afternoon making these slides. So at home, I want you to say, ooh, that's a cool slide. So self-recrimination, all right, this is what I've been talking about, as you heard in the audiobook, but I've been talking about this for months. For me at least, and I see this in other people, I don't know if it's true for them or not, but it seems to me to be true for all of us. It's the self-recrimination that causes the fear, because if I'm not going to beat myself up, if I know I'm going to be nice to myself no matter what happens, then it really doesn't matter so much what other people say or do, or what other people think of me. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if it was the affirmation, but we said what other people think of us is none of our business. Well, if I'm worried that I'm not good enough, or I don't have what it takes, or they're not going to like me, because that's how I see myself, then when somebody else mirrors that back to me, or criticizes me, or rejects me, I'm going to feel terrible. But if I stop with the self-recrimination, if I stop with the criticism and rejection of myself, then it doesn't matter what other people think of me. I swear to you guys now, at this point in my career, I really don't care what other people think of me, or my photography, or my art, or whatever, or this book. I really don't care. And there's so much freedom in that. Now, I want people to find value in it. I want people to hire me as a photographer. I want people to buy my book and all that other stuff. But my sense of self, my sense of worthiness as a person is no longer contingent upon other people liking me, or other people thinking I'm great or talented or smart or whatever. And there's so much freedom in that. So what I get now is the problem was always my own rejection of myself. It was my self-recrimination that was the primary source of fear for me. And other places came up was in public speaking. I'm not going to go into it tonight, but I've talked about this in the past. It was basically me beating myself up that made public speaking so painful, so difficult for me. And when I stopped that, I actually really enjoy public speaking now. I was invited to go to South America in 2017. I went down to South America, and I was doing public speaking for a week at 3 different colleges down there to like 1,500 students. And it was great. I loved it. And a really interesting thing about self-recrimination is it keeps us shackled to our past. All right? Because what we're doing is we're reliving all those negative experiences that we've had in the past, and now we're bringing them into the present, and we're superimposing them on whatever situation or experience we're having now in the present moment. So we're dragging the past and we're creating into the present. We're creating fear, anxiety, and all the negative consequences of that when we beat ourselves up for stuff, when we criticize ourselves, when we reject ourselves. So my mission, going forward and for a while now, has been to help people see that they're a lot more capable. It's outside with the snow. I don't know if it's a snowplow or what. Help people see that they're a lot more capable and a lot more lovable than they think they are. Because it's the belief that I'm not capable, I can't take care of myself, I'm powerless, I'm helpless, or the idea that I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, I don't have what it takes, nobody's going to like me. Those are my 2 core problems in life. Those are the 2 core beliefs that hold me back. And those beliefs create fear, create anxiety. And remember, fear is about resistance. Fear is about being stuck. All right? So let's look at our last slide for now. Now, this was, again, I mentioned this in the book and in the reading tonight. What I love is A Course in Miracles talks about fear and says quite definitively that fear is the absence of love. Now, that's kind of profound, because basically what I would do when I was in a situation where I was feeling afraid, when I was feeling fear, I would try to manipulate the situation. I would try to manipulate other people. I would try to change other people. I would try to change the situation. And it was always my attempts to change something outside of me, or somehow manipulate or control or whatever the other people or the situation that I thought was causing the fear. That's a waste of time. Number one, because even if it works, it's short term. But number two, I haven't dealt with the fear. I haven't dealt with what I really haven't dealt with are the thoughts, the self-image, the idea about myself that created the fear in the first place. So what I loved about my story tonight in the reading, in the audiobook, was when I realized what the problem was with the cold calling, when I realized it wasn't what they were doing to me, but what I was doing to myself. And I remembered, I was studying Course in Miracles. I still study the Course. When I remembered that the Course said fear is the absence of love, it was like, oh, so if I'm feeling fear, then all I really need to do is bring love to myself or to the situation. And the fear will naturally dissipate. And so I actually did that. I did my best, before, during, and after every call to be nice to myself, to esteem myself, to encourage myself. As I think I said in the reading, I went from self-flagellation to self-congratulation. Acknowledging my hard work, acknowledging my courage, acknowledging my willingness to do what it takes to get my business going. So I had a choice in every moment. I could either beat myself up for what I thought I wasn't doing correctly or perfectly or whatever, or I could esteem myself for the things I was doing. I was able to make, and more as things went, as things progressed, I was able to make that choice to love myself, to be nice to myself, to forgive myself, to encourage myself more and more. And that's when things changed, and that's when it became much easier to put myself out there. Marketing, what's marketing? Again, as I said in the in the audiobook, marketing is about being visible. It's about making your business visible where people can see it. People can't buy from you or hire you if they don't know you exist. So businesses spend a lot of money and effort marketing. Well, if I don't want to be seen because I think I'm not good enough, or because I think people are going to reject me, or because I think people are not going to like me, I'm not going to do what it takes to put myself out there. I was in a 12-step program for a long time, and they talked about positive visibility, being positively visible. And as I embraced that, because the opposite was hiding out, and for the first 3 years after I transitioned from being a lawyer to a photographer, I was hiding out because I was terrified to put myself out there, because I was so sure I didn't have what it took and people were not going to like me, I was going to be rejected, and all of that. So moving from hiding out to being positively visible takes some effort, takes some courage. It also, I talk about this in later chapters, got to let go of the results. I can't control the outcomes. I can only do my part. And when I do that fearlessly, or actually it's not even fearlessly, when I do that with self-love, when I do that with self-encouragement, when I do that by being my own best friend instead of my own worst enemy, everything changes. And not surprisingly, the world responds differently. Now, I do say this later in this chapter, the way to solve the feeling of insecurity is anxiety, it's a form of fear. The way, for me at least, to begin to solve the problem of insecurity, whether it's in my romantic relationships, whether it's in my client relationships, whether it's in my family relationships, whether it's in just in the world itself. There's a lot of stuff that we could be afraid of in the world right now. The only thing I have to change is how I see myself in that situation. If I believe I can handle it, yes, it may be challenging, it may be difficult, but you know what? I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it through this. I'm going to be okay. As opposed to telling myself, you're screwed. You may as well pack it in. This pandemic, you're done, buddy. It's over. There's no way you can handle this. It just comes down to what I tell myself, what I choose to believe about myself, reprogramming the old messages, and what happens is, so this is the whole point, when I begin to change how I see myself, the insecurity goes away, and the world hasn't changed. The challenges are still out there, but because I see myself differently, I don't have the same level of insecurity, the same level of anxiety, and I make better choices. I'm able to be of service to other people, to help myself. Again, the problem with fear, at the beginning of this chapter, we talked about the difference between fear and caution. I'm not saying we don't use caution. I'm not saying we don't use common sense. But there's a big difference between caution and fear, at least as we traditionally think about it. And caution is a reasonable, rational response to the vicissitudes of life. We take adequate precautions. We plan ahead. Caution is we put on a seatbelt in the car. Caution is we look both ways before we cross the street. Fear is we don't cross the street. Or fear is we run across the street because we're terrified, or we don't leave the house, or we don't get in the car, or we don't drive at night, or we don't drive in the snow, whatever. And maybe, for some people, if they don't have the skill to drive in the snow, it's probably a good idea not to drive in the snow. But the point is, fear is often irrational and extreme. Now again, in and of itself, that's not really the problem. But the problem is we make decisions, we make choices based on the fear, or whatever the predominant emotion is. So if I'm making my choices based on an irrational form of fear, chances are pretty good I'm not going to make the best choices. And then I'm going to have negative outcomes to deal with. Versus if I see myself as somebody who can handle that situation, if I see myself as somebody who's got what it takes to get through the challenges of my life, then I don't bring the fear, the insecurity, the anxiety, and I make better choices. And when I make better choices, I have better outcomes. All right. So we're going to take our break in a minute. First thing I want to do is I forgot to send out the assignment for tonight. So take a quick look at this, because when we come back, we're going to talk about this. Discuss the relationship between fear and self-recrimination, and how that has stopped you from pursuing what you want in life. Or if that has stopped you from pursuing what you want in life. All right, so we're going to talk about this when we come back. Everybody is welcome to chime in on this, the relationship between fear and self-recrimination, and if or how that has stopped you from pursuing what you value or want in life. All right, if you're new here, what happens now is I'm going to play a song, the same song that I played at the beginning. This time we're going to take a 5-minute break, and while we're on break, the song is going to play. The lyrics are on screen. If you're watching this at home on YouTube after the fact, I'm not allowed to play this song because of copyright issues, but the song is Love My Life by Robbie Williams. Great affirmations in the lyrics to this song. It's a great energy. It's a great way to shift our emotional state. Tony Robbins talks all about shifting our state. And you can do that with things like music and affirmations. And the importance of shifting our state is then we take action. We overcome the negative emotions which causes us to be resistant and paralyzed by life. We change our state, and then we can take positive action in the world. And when we take positive action, we get positive results. So I'm going to play the song, 5-minute break. You can sing along at home if you want. Just turn off your microphone. And then when we come back, again, we're going to look at this question, discussing the relationship between fear and self-recrimination and how that stopped you from pursuing what you want in life. Oh, a little quick on that one. So we're back. So that song is Love My Life by Robbie Williams. Get it on Amazon Music or iTunes, wherever you get music. And there's actually a free version. There's a version on YouTube as well to listen to. So I just want to follow up with what I was saying at the end of before the break. The thing that's so important is this. as I change how I see myself, I change how I see the world. Now, what's really important about this is the world has not changed. It's still the same world that it was before, but now I feel differently. Now I show up differently. Now I take different actions. I make different choices. The world has not changed, but because I changed how I see myself, I have a whole different experience of life. And again, that affirmation, I got this, man, when I say that, my whole attitude changes. My whole outlook, my whole attitude changes. Again, it's not to say that life isn't difficult at times, and not to say there's not going to be challenges, but it's so obvious to me now that if I think I can handle the challenge, it's going to be much easier, it's going to be much better than if before I even get to that situation, I talk myself out of it by, I can't handle this, it's going to be too hard, I'm going to mess this up, it's not going to work out, nothing works out for me. All the negative stuff that I tell myself all day long, or used to tell myself all day long. I really have gotten a lot better with all that. So, all right, so now it's your turn. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Again, we're going to look at this question, or anything, anything related to what we've been talking about. And again, we can simplify this, just how has being nicer to yourself made your life easier? How being more forgiving of yourself, because that's, for me, that's where the courage came from. The courage to put myself out there as an artist, to put myself out there as a photographer, that courage came from me being nicer to myself. It didn't come from, when it wasn't feel the fear and do it anyway, it wasn't overcoming the obstacles, it was changing how I saw myself, changing who I thought I was and how I treated myself as a result. The plows are going by out there. We're getting a lot of snow tonight. So that was the difference. And remember, we're always reacting to the meaning that we give the situation based on how we see ourselves, based on who we think we are. All right, who wants to start?
I'll start.
TD.
Hey, Peter. I just want to say I'm so glad I'm on tonight and I'll be listening to the replay. For you to be willing to share that there was a time in your life and career where actually doing your taxes was a stressful event. And that there could be, because I have some stress around an issue, that I need to deal with. And for the life of me, I have been procrastinating dealing with it. Now I have the wherewithal to take care of whatever my obligation is. And I'm still really terrified. I have a lot of trepidation about feeling the feelings of looking at the past and all the having to relive the feelings of, whatever mistakes that I made or whatever the thoughts that I have about myself for making those mistakes are very, very painful. I'll just say it like that. So I know that I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right people, and that there's hope there's a light at the end of this tunnel. March, with the forgiveness chapters can't come soon enough for me. I'll just say it like that. My book study buddies kind of been on hiatus, so I'm kind of out here just doing the workshops and appreciating the workshops. And I really need to, I need to get back on reading the book, getting more support with the book. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm just throwing it out there. And I love being here and I love this process. And I'm just so grateful for you and your willingness to be vulnerable and actually talk about things that are really painful and difficult for, or were for you, because they are for some people like me. I appreciate you. So I'm just going to leave it at that, Pass.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, TD. Yeah, I mean, again, the problem is always how I see myself. It's never the situation, and I get to choose. I get to decide. Now, again, we talked about this in chapter 2. It's about taking responsibility. See, I have to be willing to be responsible for my experience of my life. I have to be willing to be responsible to stop blaming everybody else when my life is not working out, or blaming the IRS or blaming the, the administration, what are they doing with my tax money and why do I have to pay so much? And, that's a very unempowered way to live. And I'm not shaming or making anybody wrong for that, but I can see now that that was not serving me. Those thoughts, all it said was I was a victim. All it said was poor me, self-pity, and again, if you have any experience in 12-step programs, they talk about life on life's terms. And I feel so much more empowered now. I feel so much more like I can handle stuff, and it was just, and here's the thing, again, I harped on this the first 2 months of the workshop, all the negative stuff that most of us think about ourselves, most of that stuff is just made up stuff from our childhood. I've been walking around for the last years, convinced that I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I don't have what it takes. And it was all based on the conclusions of a 6-year-old. I'm living my adult life based on some conclusions I came to when I was 6 or 5 or 4 or whatever age it was. And the reality is none of that stuff is true. I mean, look at me, I'm so lovable, right? So it's like all that stuff that we tell ourselves, not only is it disempowering, but it's not even true. Now, where it gets tricky is that we have experiences that back up those thoughts and beliefs about ourselves. So I can give you a laundry list of how I have actual experiences in my life that prove I'm not good enough, that prove I'm not lovable, that prove I don't have what it takes. But here's the thing. It never occurred to me that maybe the experience, maybe the belief precedes the experience. Maybe the experience conforms to what my thoughts, beliefs, and expectations are. Now, we're going to talk a lot about this probably in my next book, but this idea that we create our own reality based on our thoughts, based on who we think we are. I can predict my future now. I was thinking about this. So we're having this snowstorm tonight. It's supposed to get up to 20 inches of snow. And the forecast has been coming for days. So it's like we knew what was coming and it's playing out pretty much as they predicted. So we're able to forecast the weather. Well, you know what? Now I'm able to forecast my own future. And the way I know what my future is going to be is I look at the thoughts I think today, the feelings I have today, because that's predicting what my experience tomorrow is going to be. What I think, feel, say, and do today is going to greatly influence the outcomes I experience tomorrow. So we can actually predict our own future. So if I'm thinking crappy thoughts and if I'm feeling crappy feelings and if I'm saying crappy words and taking crappy actions today, guess what's coming tomorrow? And then I'm like, wow, how did that happen? It's like I'm just so out to lunch in terms of creating my own life. It's like, and we talked about this in chapter 3, we talked about true happiness. Again, I think I said this again last week. Most of us, most of the time, sit around thinking negative thoughts, feeling negative feelings, being judgmental, being critical, being controlling, being angry, being afraid. And then we wonder why we're not happy. Why isn't my life working? How come I'm not experiencing what I want to experience in my life? Well, it could be that I've been thinking negative thoughts. I've been criticizing myself and others. I've been judging whoever. I've been, trying to control this. I've been terrified of that. I've been stressed out about this. All of that explains why I'm having this experience now. So we're creating our lives. We're the actual creators of our lives. And most of us don't know it. If you're familiar with law of attraction, Abraham Hicks, they talk all about this, the fact that we attract to us whatever we believe is true. And actually more specific, we attract to us whatever is consistent with our predominant vibration, our predominant feelings, our predominant emotional and mental state. And it's very interesting. They say, You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. It's the act of thinking and feeling and creating this vibrational field around us that attracts to us everything that's consistent with that. Now, some people don't buy that, there are people who whatever, but I think it's hard to argue with the fact that, you know what, if I go into a challenging situation and I have negative thoughts, I'm going to have one experience. If I go into that same situation with positive thoughts, chances are pretty good I'm going to have a more productive, positive experience. All right, great. Thank you, Dee Dee. Appreciate your sharing tonight. Who else? Who's next? Judy, you ready to go? No? All right.
About what? I'm sorry, I just hopped on. About what?
Oh, okay. So, well, this is kind of what we're talking about tonight. Discuss the relationship between fear and self-recrimination and how that has stopped you from pursuing what you want in life.
Oh, well, I could talk about that. I have to say that I have lived with a lot of fear, and I do truly believe that it has, held me back in many ways to move forward in, different areas of my life, different work situations, and just in general. And because I didn't believe in myself. But I will say that I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why probably, but I'm asking for lots and lots of help to walk through fear, to do a lot of different things that I can't even believe I'm doing, like especially work-wise, since I've changed my career recently. And I mean, I'm basically a retired person and haven't really worked, full time or anywhere near that for quite a while. And I can't believe some of the things that I'm doing right now. I mean, I've done podcasts recently. Something came up today where I know that I'm going to be forced to do a lot of things that I don't feel I'm ready for. And you know what I did instead? I said, okay, God, you're putting this in front of me, and I'm going to be able to do it. I just know I'm going to be able to do it, whatever it takes. And so I was able to switch my thinking immediately into the positive. That's being positive, asking for help and knowing I can do something versus, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I'm going to lose sleep over it. And I'm not going to do that today. So
Do you notice a relationship between just being nicer to yourself, less self-criticism, self-recrimination, and the ability to take action?
Absolutely. Like I've taken the bad away a lot. I don't exactly know why and where it's come from, but just overall feeling like I can do it. And you know what? If I don't know the answer, I can ask, or I can say I don't know, and find the answer, right? And move on. And I have lots of wonderful people in my life supporting me. Like I'm going to do something tomorrow. My son asked me to run a group for him tomorrow. And, my instant thought is, no, I can't do that. I've done it once before for him, but no, I can't do that. And I said, I didn't even think that way. I just said, sure. And then I didn't have the right formatting to get on and stuff. And he said, well, I can ask someone else. And I said, well, go ahead if you want to, because he didn't seem to want to take the time with me. But then I said to him, no, I said, you know what? I need to do this tomorrow for you. So if you could find a few, he just had a baby, so he's pretty stressed out. So I said, so he did. He went, I went over there and he went over the couple of things he had to go over, and I'm going to do it for him, and I know it will be just fine, but my instant thought is, yike, but, I'm really stopping and taking the pause and like, I can do this. I can absolutely do it instead of looking in the negative.
Our affirmation of the day tonight was, I got this.
All right. Well, I got it. I got it and I'm going to do it. And my day is filled with all sorts of things tomorrow that are going to definitely stretch me, really stretch me. But
Awesome.
I'm up for the challenge. And I have people who are supporting me. And that's really, and people who have actually noticed the difference. So there's really been a shift of energy, which is really exciting. So
Great. That's great. I
so
love to hear that.
maybe you have something to do with it, Peter. I don't know. It could be.
Well, I listen. You keep showing up every week, so I'm assuming you get some value out of it, and I'm thrilled that you're here. But I will not take credit. Remember, I don't take credit for people's success or failure.
You don't have to worry then if they
But
fail.
but I love to be, I love to share what I've learned and to be of service in that way. And I love when people, I mean, listen, I'm thrilled. One of the biggest thrills for me is when I see people making, overcoming themselves. The subtitle of this book is Overcoming Our Self-Imposed Limits to Have the Life We Want. And most of us we've placed these limits on ourselves. And so, breaking through that wall, whatever that is, when I see that in another person, because I know the courage it takes, I know the willingness, the stretch, but that's when great things happen. So you're inspiring me, Judy. Thank you. It's great to see you and hear your story.
So, well, thanks
Thank
for
you.
asking me.
Love it. Thank you. Who else? Anybody else want to chime in? Tell us how the relationship between fear and self-recrimination.
Hi there. So
Hi.
I just want to thank you for sharing what you shared, and I can relate to a lot of it. I was wondering if you could give some examples of what you say when you acknowledge yourself and encourage yourself, because you talked about how you do that when you challenge yourself or see yourself how you don't want to see yourself.
So yeah, Constance, thank you. That's a great question. I actually have, I'm working on the second edition, and in the back of the second edition, I have a whole list of affirmations that I use. It's like 2-3 pages of affirmations. I keep saying I'm going to make it available to you guys. I will get you guys a list, but it just ranges from I got this to I love you, I love myself. I mean, I do a lot of mirror work now. I talk to myself in the mirror. Whatever the situation is, it's like, you're going to be okay. I care about you. You're valuable. You're loved. You're safe. I'm loved. I'm safe. Thinking about it's kind of situation specific, but whatever speaks to you in terms of affirming positive messaging. And a lot of it is we want to break that habitual way of responding to situations. And the habitual way of responding to situations is always based on a habitual way of seeing ourselves. So I also have in the back of the book, I have a copy of a vision statement. So I have a vision statement. I read that vision statement out loud every morning, and that tells a whole new story of me and my life. I read it to you guys back in maybe August. Constance, I think I read it to you guys too on the mastermind. But so it's stuff like that where we're reprogramming, we're breaking the habit of seeing ourselves in a certain way that's not serving us. So you can write your own vision statement, write your own story. It could just be 2 paragraphs, and again, here's the thing, guys. Yes, we're making it all up in one sense, but we're making up all the negative stuff too. I mean, all the negative stuff most of us believe about ourselves. Again, even though we have experiences that back it up, I'm going to tell you that once I change the belief, the experience follows, it changes. So it's my belief that even though many of us have a whole lifetime of negative experiences, which we say proves that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy. I'm telling you that when I change the belief, when I change my thought about myself, my self-image, who I think I am, the experiences change. So now again, this is about exercising chapter 3. Title of chapter 3 is True Power, True Happiness. Our true power is when we consciously and deliberately think thoughts, feel feelings, speak words, and take actions that move us forward in life instead of holding us back. I know you wanted specific examples. Without the list in front of me and without the specific situations, it's kind of difficult. But so the point is, we have a lot more power than we realize in terms of creating our lives and the experiences of our lives. And it all starts with our thinking.
Okay, that was helpful. And also, FYI, I didn't hear the plows when they were going past. I couldn't hear any of that.
Okay. All right. It's good to know because it's so loud in here. All right, cool. Thank you, Constance. Anything else?
Nope, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Who else? Still got a few minutes.
Hi, Peter, it's Barbara. You know, I not question what I said. I mean, it is good to have change from the negative to the positive. And I think it's just a period of my life that I'm going to have to go through because I'm changing. And what I recognize, and you know, it all has to do with computer and this and see, I'm good as a people person, and you know that. And it's not, the computer is you know, not something I kind of, you know, pay a lot of attention to. So I'm always having issues with it. It's okay. But how can I put this? I'm trying to be, you know, I hate making mistakes. And I know you say to forgive yourself, but the mistakes are still being made. And, you know, they probably will never go away, but I would like them to. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm going, okay, is it because I'm not smart enough? Is it because, you know, sometimes when you don't have confidence, you make a mistake. And obviously what you're saying is fear. And, you know, I'm trying to push that fear over. And I said, I live, you know, I'm trying to live the time positively, but the mistakes are still being made. Ta-da.
So okay.
And the forgiveness is not the thing right now. You know what I mean? I can forgive myself. No, in a work, you know, I'm just saying in a work environment or something like that, you can't just go, okay, I forgive it. No, I don't want to make the mistakes.
All right, great. So you've been coming around, you've read the book at least twice, I think. You've been coming to the workshop since they started in July. What would I say to you in response to your question?
What would you say in response to my question? Well, I already answered it. I think you're going to tell me to forgive myself for any mistake that I made. I think, or that was
Not
chapter
quite.
2.
I agree with you. I mean, ultimately it is forgiveness, but we don't.
No, but
we're
it's
not
not.
quite there. And so again, so the problem is not making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem?
I mean, if you're going to say how I feel about myself, I'm not, I'm a very, like I said, I'm a very good people person. The job can be where we are having computer issues. So I have somebody working on that and the phone rings. And I'm just saying multitasking and all those things, keeping it all together and being positive. That's what I'm doing. And I can feel it and I can see it and it all works well. Okay. So let's just say this. So then there's a computer glitch. I hate to say it like this, a funeral comes in, you know, 15 minutes before I'm going to leave, I got to write it. And the computer just won't work for me. You know, I've got to it's Friday night. I wasn't working Monday. They have to have this information and I can't print it. So, you know, computer to printer. I mean, I called this poor person who came over, you know, at 5:30 on a Friday night and she came over to help me. And she helped me. You know, so that's like you keep on, you know, I don't want them as victories anymore. I want to be able to solve my own problems. Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes solving our problems is asking for help. But let's go
Okay.
back to the original question. So
Yeah,
the
what is it?
problem is not making a mistake. What's the problem?
Okay. You know, if we're going to say I don't have confidence in myself.
Well, again, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You decide if this fits or not. The problem is not making a mistake for me. The problem is I beat the crap out of myself for making the mistake. It's like, it's not okay with me to not know something. It's not okay
Right.
with me to be
Yeah.
imperfect.
Right. Okay. I
That's
agree.
look, I can't speak for
That's
anybody
a
else.
problem.
but
That's
it turns out-
self-incrimination. That's what you're talking about.
It turns out that is a problem in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
If I
I'm not-
can't allow myself to make a mistake and still love myself, remember we talked about this last week. Unconditional
Yeah.
love is when we love ourselves, when we least like who we're being.
Uh-huh.
That includes when we make mistakes or screw things up.
Well, see, and that's not a mistake, and that's not screwing things up. That's me and technology. And I really, I'm kidding you, but I'm saying it's not me. And yet, okay. Yet after the fact, and I got, I did get it solved, and I know that is part of me, and that's a good thing. Okay. What you were saying, then I recognized that there was another thing I could have done. And that's okay.
Well,
and that's
and you know what it is? We make the stakes so high for stuff. It's like we make the stakes so high, and that creates the anxiety and the stress. See, if it's okay for me to screw something up, to make a mistake, and that's objective, okay? I did something incorrectly.
But I didn't do something
Judgment.
incorrectly.
You did.
No, I didn't.
Well, you said you made a mistake. I didn't say that.
Oh,
Did you
I'm
make a
sorry.
mistake
No,
or
but
not?
I guess what I'm trying to say is I needed to do something, and it wouldn't, and I couldn't do it. It isn't my mistake. The computer and the printer was not working. It was a computer glitch. Not me.
All right. But it still sounds like you're not okay with the computer glitch.
Right.
Let me say this. I think, I'm just going out on a limb here, but I think that number one, if you let it be okay with you not knowing how to do something, I'll speak for myself. So
Okay.
I got fired from my first job in LA in the law firm that I worked for because I was terrified of not knowing how to do something. And I was terrified that if I didn't know how to do something and people found out I didn't know how to do it, I was going to feel ashamed. I was going to feel worthless. I was going to feel unlovable. And it was going to be more proof that all that stuff was true about me. And that was all in my head. The objective fact was I made a mistake or I didn't know how to do something. That was the objective truth of the situation. But I attached all this other stuff to it.
Okay.
And
I'm agreeing with you there. Yes. And that is, that's a picture. That is the whole picture. With you or me, it can be analyzed the same way. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's this that's the problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I began to cut myself some slack and I began to say, gee, you know what? Maybe I don't know how to do everything. And that's okay. It's okay for me not to know everything. And it's okay, and the other thing is, disappointing people. If I don't do something correctly, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint somebody. Mm-hmm. And that's for codependent me, that's like a fate worse than death, disappointing people or people thinking less of me, because I don't know something or I don't do something right or I make a mistake. So I don't know if that was in play for you, but that adds a whole other level of stress on top of it.
Yeah, there was the levels of stress. It can be varied in a way of what the outcome would have been. But yeah, I needed to get this done. It's my job. I can't walk away from it. So yes, I called for help. Maybe it's time for me to stop calling for help. And that's what I'm saying. I wish I could have, okay, and maybe next time. There was another answer. All it would have been, Peter, is long-handed. I could have written it out instead of worrying about the computer printing it and then made copies. Duh. That comes later on. I go, why didn't I think about that? So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, I'm going to mirror back to you. I get it, exactly what you said. And I heard a little, in what you just said and the way you said it, I heard a little self-recrimination, Barb.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So my experience sounds like maybe you have a similar one. It's the self-recrimination that creates the fear, the anxiety, and the stress.
Okay. Yeah,
and I would suggest to you that when you allow yourself to not know something or make a mistake with the computer, it'll happen less.
Okay.
Because
Right,
remember,
even the positive
we're
thinking has made it less, you know,
right.
so that's what I'm saying. I am on a little bit of a journey, yes. And I just
And
kind
we
of,
attract whatever we believe is true, whatever our expectations are, whatever our vibration is, we're going to attract the situations, including computer glitches.
okay. But see the answer now, and that came later. I want that answer to come, you know, and I'm just saying, I don't know if it's, maybe it may come with, and I think that would have just come with confidence in myself. So yes, I am saying that tonight. I
So you're
need
working
to,
towards it.
yeah, I'm working
We're
towards it.
learning. Many of us are learning to walk for the first time, and it takes a
Yes.
while.
Well, you know, it's kind of crummy being an adult and having to go through that, but okay. Okay.
That's just a judgment.
Yeah.
That's just a judgment. You can also
Okay.
say, gee, I'm excited because now at
Ooh.
least I know what I didn't know before. And that means, remember, we are now in the business of predicting our future.
Right.
So
agree.
what I think, feel, say, and do today is going to determine my experience tomorrow or next week or whatever. So by changing those things today, guess what? My life is going to get better and better.
Okay. I'm not there yet, but okay.
You're doing great, Barb. Trust me. You're
No,
doing
I
so
am.
you don't even know
No,
how good
I
you're
know
doing.
what you're saying, and I know that I am. I'm like, just to live in a positive frame of mind instead of a negative frame of mind is tremendous. Yes, yes, I recognize that. It's a one,
And again,
you
it's
know.
not to say there won't be challenges, and it's not to say there won't be disappointments. You know, this is not, we're not airy fairy, like, you know, all of a sudden life is going to be perfect. But what we're doing is we're relearning how to live.
Yeah.
We're relearning how to walk. We are toddlers. We're just learning how to walk again.
Yeah.
To walk through the challenges of our lives in a healthy, functional way. And there's no shame in that. And there's not, you know, I should have known better and I should know by now and I'm an adult. You know, that's just more self-hatred. That's just more self-recrimination.
Right. So thank you. Listening to you brought it out. You know, I recognize it. I think my many changes, you know, like I think, you know, the moving on from job to job, you know, I recognize like if you stayed in one for a long time, you would get very good at what you're doing and you would have confidence. And so that's what I was lacking. Yes. I keep on bringing up that
And
word. So.
yeah, and also remember, we talk ourselves out of stuff all the time. You know, we talk ourselves out of, you know, shining. We talk ourselves out of succeeding. So, you know, confidence. Now, I talked about confidence in the past. My definition of self-confidence is a trusting relationship with myself.
Right. I've
And
got to
so
read.
the more,
That has to be an affirmation then. There you go. I have to constantly say that to myself. Yeah.
well, the more I can trust myself to be nice to myself when I screw something up or make a mistake or don't know something, that's confidence. You know, you know, the definition in the dictionary, when I looked it up, one of the definitions of the word confidence was a trusting relationship.
Right. I remember that. Yes, I know. Yeah.
So I ported that over to say self-confidence is a trusting relationship with myself. What do I have to trust myself to do? I have to trust myself to be nice to myself when I'm imperfect. I have to trust myself to be nice to myself when I'm being human, not knowing everything.
Well, that's the process of living in a more positive environment, you know, more positive head. Yes, I understand. And I guess
All right,
other things.
good.
Okay.
Thank you, Barb.
So you're welcome. Well, that's why I was saying they don't seem to be victories, but things are happening.
Well, it all you can call it a victory if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Thank you.
We get to decide
Okay.
what's a success and what's a failure, or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So we're a little. Thank you, Barb. We're a little bit over time, but I want to see. Does anybody else want to say anything? Chime in on any of this?
I just want to say that we've finished the packing and we're halfway to Albuquerque, New Mexico from our old Chicago home. And that is a huge victory. Thank you.
That is so awesome. Cynthia, where are you guys? What town?
In Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Nice.
Thank you all.
All right, good. Glad you chimed in or checked
Thank-
in. I'm glad the move is going well.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else before we wrap it for the night? All right, so I'm going to play this song one more time, 3.5 minutes this time. Sing along if you will, and then we'll come back and say our final goodbyes. All right, guys. So that's it for this week. As always, tell your friends. Everybody's welcome. We are going to be continuing, I think, for at least the next 2 weeks on Chapter 4 and then Chapter 5, Decision Making and the Desire to Feel Better. So if you think it's been fun up till now, wait till we get to Chapter 5 and 6. A lot of good stuff in there. So, and like I said, the second edition and definitely the audiobook, as well as probably the second edition should be done before the end of the year, the next 2 weeks. Working hard on it. So anybody want to say anything before we wrap it for tonight?
Thanks, Peter. Is the price on the audiobook going up? It's Dee Dee.
Not for you, Dee Dee.
Okay, I'm buying it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate the workshop. Have a lovely week.
Okay, you too. Anybody else?
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Peter. It's wonderful to hear all of you. Thanks.
Cynthia, when are you guys going to be in Arizona or in New Mexico?
New Mexico tomorrow night.
All right.
Yep.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Everybody.
All right. Good night. Constance,
Oh,
thank you for being here.
Wow.
For anybody who doesn't know Constance, she's a relationship coach and she's really good at what she does.
Oh, thank you.
You want to tell people how they can find out more about you?
Well, my website is coachconstance.com. And my specialty is helping successful women who have a secret desire to have true love, attract it, and get married or not. But I help pretty much everybody with communication. So it goes across the board. And I have free groups going on right now for people challenged with being isolated or at home. So if you or someone you know is challenged, there's a group on Friday and everyone's welcome. No, it's co-ed, any age. Thanks.
All right, great. So coachconstance.com.
Yes, but it's
Okay.
probably best to text me if you want to be in communication, because there's not really a way on the website.
You want to leave your text?
Sure.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Or if people can just reach out to me and I'll put them in touch if you want.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
Whatever your preference is.
Okay.
All right, good. Great. Thanks again for being here. Anybody else? Lynn, you doing good?
Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you.
All right, great.
I
Good to
missed
see you.
the first part of the workshop because I'm working a lot these days before Christmas, and they're gonna close all the store here because the virus is too much. So we're gonna have after the 24th of December 3 weeks off that we will have to close.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
taking double shift
to make all people happy for Christmas.
So Lynn is based in Quebec, in Montreal, and Lynn is a hairstylist. So she's working her buns off up there. Very good.
And I have a arm that doesn't follow, so it's real difficult. And but I every morning I said, okay, I can do my day. I will do my day, and but it's tough. It's really tough. But I think I will get better with the 3 weeks off.
Oh, there you go. So you look forward to that time off. Good.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank
you
you.
very much, Peter.
You're welcome. Michelle, you want to say anything? No? Yes?
Not really. I guess a lot to think about. I guess I could relate in a lot of ways with what you're saying about fear holding me back. And I just have to, I guess, work it out by talking it through eventually.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Remember, this recording for tonight's workshop will be available, about 48 hours from now. So if it's helpful to go back and watch. And what I'm doing is I'm putting now, because it's like an hour and a half, I'm putting chapter markers in there so you can just jump right to whatever part you want to look at.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Joanne, did you want to say anything? Your books went out yesterday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Can't wait to get them. I wanted to say something to Cindy since she's in Tulsa. There is a beautiful light show right off of the main road on 71st Street called Rhema, RHEMA. Oh, and you can drive through it. It's absolutely spectacular and it's no charge and it's the best I've ever seen.
Nice.
I don't know if you can, text her and let her know, but she'd probably drive through now. They're open till 11 p.m. and it's just beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I see she dropped off. All right. Yeah, let her know. All right. Barb, did you want to say something? You're on
No, I
mute.
was just saying goodnight. I was saying goodbye. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, good.
Good night, everyone.
All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
So-
Peter.
We'll see you
Night.
guys next. See you guys
Sorry
next
I'm
week.
so late. I
Good
didn't
night,
realize the
everyone.
time.
No worries. You made it. All right, guys. Have a great week. Be bigger than you think you are.
Thank you.